So this is another episode of Spooky Betches.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Today we're talking about black-eyed children, so things should get spooky.
I just I don't know. I just saw it online one time and I was like, that's absolutely terrifying. And then I watched Shane Dawson videos about it, as you do. And then I just got into it. It was really interesting. I like listening to creepypastas and especially the Let's Not Meet section of that. It's spooky, but it's also relatively new.
Yeah, it feels like it's a kind of a, I don't know. I guess I feel like since hearing about it, I've heard more and more about it, but it could just be one of those things. But it does seem that a lot of the talk about it emerged recently. I got into it, following Sixpence on Tumblr. It's so I don't know, it's so creepy.
The idea that
stories.
Something innocent would turn out to be so terrifyingly aggressive is it's scary. You don't want to imagine a child being
that and
devious.
The situations described are always so mundane. Sometimes you read a spooky story and it's alright, that's
real fake.
It's real fake, or it's the circumstances are so unfamiliar that it's not it doesn't affect you that much.
Right.
But this is such a mundane thing. Everybody's had a kid, ask them for help or something, and that's usually what these black-eyed children do.
Yeah, they're I need help. I want can you drive me somewhere, or if they knock on the door, can I come use your phone? All that. That's you want to help them, but or you want to help normal children, but the thing with the black-eyed children is that you feel you should not help them.
And thank God we have that feeling.
Yeah.
Well, that's another weird thing is a lot of these stories, people have enough of an inkling not to help them or let them in. That I don't think I've read one where they did let them in. I think I read one once.
Yeah, I feel I've read
and
maybe
then they
one
quickly
or two.
kind of kicked them out again, and then it. I think it was the story where they let them in and quickly got them to leave, but their husband the next day was violently ill or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only one I've read where the person actually let them into their house.
Yeah, there was one where it was a wife and a husband. Yeah, the husband, and he was the one who invited them in, and the wife was taking a shower or something, and she came back down and she was who are these kids? And he was I don't know, they just want help, and she was get them out. Immediately she knew that there was something wrong.
Yeah.
So, I guess now we can just go on to the first recorded sighting, which a lot of people think is kind of dubious because I think he's a journalist, and it's just there's a lot of people that think he is lying about it, and has done all this fake publicity so that he can get attention and Anyway, it's interesting. That's an interesting theory in itself because he created basically this entire urban legend to get
really?
Attention, if he did. And so basically, Brian Bethel, it was spring or summer in 1966, and it was the evening, and Bethel was making his way to the internet service provider Camelot Communications office on North 1st Street in Abilene, Texas?
I guess.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Abilene, Texas.
Sorry, y'all. I don't know how you pronounce that. But he was going to pay off his bills. And he innocently scribbled on a check and was going to drop it in the office's mailbox. And this is kind of what started everything. So he was in his car in the parking lot when two boys came out to him, and one looked to be about 9 and the other one 12, and they started knocking on his window.
One of them was somewhat suave, olive-skinned, and curly-headed.
And the other one was a redhead with pale skin and freckled. And the boys were wearing pullovers with hoods. I'm assuming that they were wearing them up
Yeah, I wondered about that as well.
Because
that makes a difference.
That makes a difference to how spooky they are, but also how would he be able to, like, tell so, like, specifically what their hair was like?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that's one mark against him as far as credibility.
Yeah. Yeah. So he rolled down the window, I guess, and the first boy explained that the two of them wanted to watch the premiere of Mortal Kombat at the theater. But they didn't have any money, and they left it at their mom's house. And so he requested the kids wanted a ride to their mom's house so that they could get the money and go back to the theater. Gotta say, I don't think any kid by 1996 was going to just go up to a stranger and be like, "Hi, get me a ride."
Yeah, that's...
Like, I can see it, like, into the 80s.
Yeah.
But I feel like, because, like, a lot of, like, horrible things happened to kids in the 80s and, like, early 90s.
Yeah.
That, like, people kind of realized that you couldn't let your kids go off alone by themselves. Maybe stay home by themselves, but not, like, a 9 and a 12-year-old going off by themselves. That's weird.
Yeah. I think that it's a difficult thing because it should be, you know, given all the stuff that happened, like, recently, like you said, like, in the 80s and the early 90s, that, like, the change, that shift that happened should have taken effect, so to speak, at this point. But I don't know, I mean, kids do
stupid stuff. Like, yeah, I mean, it could happen, and especially boys, sometimes they don't really think about it.
Yeah, but no, I definitely see what you're saying. I think at this point there was definitely a change,
and while the boys were talking, suddenly Bethel felt, like, totally, like, just consumed by fear, and he, like, didn't know why, and he just thought it was really weird, and he was, like, saying, "No, I'm not gonna take you." He just kept, the older boy, I'm guessing, just tried to keep convincing him, and said stuff like it wouldn't take long, they were just two little kids, and they didn't have a gun or anything. Which...
that ought to sell him on tape.
That ought, yeah, I mean, get those kids right in that car. So Bethel started reaching for the door, like, subconsciously, when he suddenly made eye contact with him. Okay. Like, noticed his eyes, and that they were entirely black. Like, not just, like, he had very dark brown eyes, but, like, the entire, like, sclera, like, were black. Was black. So, and he described them as the sort of eyes one sees these days on aliens or bargain basement vampires on late night television. Soulless orbs like two great swabs of starless night. So he tried to maintain normality, and he was just like, "Okay, gotta go, bye." And when he looked in the rearview mirror, the kids weren't there. Which, I mean, that's scary, but if they were normal kids and someone tears out of a parking lot, wouldn't you run if you were right next to the car? Yeah, that is a reasonable point. Plus, they're right in front of the theater. I don't know. It's not like they didn't have a place to run either, you know? Why didn't they just, like, ask... like, why wouldn't you just ask, like, somebody for, like, 25 cents? How much was it to get into... Probably more than 25 cents, now that I'm thinking about it. This is 1996, This is 1996, 1896. Let's go see Mortal Kombat. For 25 cents, of course. I don't know, it's a weird one. I don't know what to think about it. I do see people's point, kind of being skeptical of it. Yeah, I mean... It's weird because I'm skeptical of his story, but then other black-eyed children stories I read, I find much more believable, but then I'm like, he kind of started the phenomenon. I don't know. The thing is that, like, if he made it up for attention, I've never heard of his story before researching it. Yeah. And then it was like, oh, well, he was the first one to have a sighting, or he was the guy who made it up. Mm-hmm. So, and I've never heard of his name. Like, I've never seen, like forums about Brian Bethel.
Yeah. That's true. Maybe, I don't know. He could have made it up for attention and just not succeeded in getting the attention.
Yeah, and then, like, another thing is that, like, just because it's, like, an urban legend doesn't mean that, it's not real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, like, there's, like, no correlation with that. Like, those two meanings have no correlation. Also, reading on this on Reddit was an absolute nightmare. But it was just, there's this one guy on here. I won't say his username, but he was just absolutely freaking irritating. And he kept saying that everybody who's had a sighting are probably fantasy prone individuals or schizotypal personalities.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. And everyone was like, what credentials do you have to say this? And he was just like, I have credentials. And I talked to my sister who has a CID in neuropsychology, and she was like, that means he's probably taken like one class in college about psychologies.
I have credentials is my favorite commenter section quote.
Like, I've taken a class on chemistry, y'all. I'm a chemist. And, like, the thing is that you can't, like, group people like that. And just because one person who has had a sighting might have schizophrenia doesn't mean that they are lying or are having a delusion or having, like seeing something that's not there, because usually they can tell the difference between it. It's just that they have, like, no way of, like, not reacting to it.
Yeah. Well, and then frankly, the fact that this user, this Redditor, like, does try to categorize all of those people into that group, it's kind of discredits any credentials he or she claims to have. Because that's not quite what you're supposed to do in psychology.
No.
But yeah, it's I think most people, I would like to believe, know that you can't just make that generalization.
Yeah, in the notes I said, so unless you have interviewed every single witness, you cannot say that they have a neurological disorder.
Yeah.
And also the fact that they had, as you said before, that they had, like, a response immediately upon, like, seeing them, that they were uncomfortable or didn't want to be there. That's a neurological response, and that's something that's, like, your intuition or, like, your gut feeling saying you should not be here, you need to leave, get out. It's like fight or flight mode. But most of the time for these people it seems to be flight.
Thank God.
Yeah.
And it's another thing that, like, really kind of gives me chills thinking about it is the fact that so many of these first-hand accounts of it, like, the people do have a flight response instead of a fight response, and they never find out what these children are going to do or what they're capable of, is, like, that fact is made, like, all the creepier when you think about the fact that they're probably, if this is real, there probably have been people who have let them in, but,
yeah,
you know,
we've
dead
never
men
heard
tell
that.
no tales.
Yeah, dead men tell no tales. So now we have some shorter stories, kind of. And I like this one. I think this one's about, it's the bus one.
Oh, right.
And I don't think this one has a child.
No, this is an adult, yeah. That's something, it started to occur to me. I don't know if this is a widespread theory on black-eyed children, or black-eyed kids, I keep calling them. I think the term mostly uses black-eyed kids. But I don't know if this is like a widespread theory, but personally, reading some of these stories and kind of noticing the repetition of the theme of them trying to get inside your home or get in your territory, I got to a certain point where I was like, so vampires.
Yeah.
So vampires.
Yeah, because like, you have to, they keep asking you, invite me in. Like, and, like, sometimes if you keep refusing, they'll get very aggressive, and they'll, like, start yelling at you, and then people will just close the door, lock it, like, they can't, like...
They get aggressive verbally, but they don't physically bust in.
They can't physically like, touch you. Yeah. So that is very vampire-esque. Yeah. Other people have definitely thought about that, yeah.
And then the fact that this story... Oh, sorry, I should let you tell the story, but...
No, you.
Go. The fact that it features, you know, an adult with the black eyes is something that's interesting to me, too, because I was like, why would it always be kids? I guess there's this idea that vampires, you know, stay young forever, so there's maybe that. Maybe kids are, like, make good victims to be turned into this, or...
Well, then you have to think about, usually they're seen in twos. Mm-hmm. And what do kids like to do? They like to be with their friends or, like, in groups. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't really grow up in a neighborhood, but all my friends who grew up in neighborhoods, like, they would, like, all, like, play together, like, on the street. Mm-hmm. So, it's very plausible that these creatures, whatever they are just banding together as children, because that's what normal human children would do.
Yeah, totally. But that's my theory. Sorry, I'll let you get on to your the bus tale.
No, it's interesting. So this is Bus Encounter. That's what it's called on this article. I don't know who it's by because it just says deleted in brackets. But here we go. I was riding the bus back home after work. It was about 1 a.m. I'm a security guard and often work odd hours. So I'm sitting there, and this guy gets on, sits across from me. He's wearing a suit, had a briefcase, regular-looking guy in his 20s. What struck me about him at first was that he was chewing a cigar, not smoking it. You can't smoke on the bus. So I was just looking at him while he stared out the window and chewed his cigar, and all of a sudden he turned and looked at me. His eyes were pitch black, just as you described. My heart started beating like a mad mother, and I felt my gorge rising. My gorge?
I like that.
What? My gorge? Alright. I'm guessing that's like bile. Anyway. I was starting to panic, and I had no idea why. I was just terrified of this guy. Then he grinned at me, and his teeth were all covered in tobacco bits and brown juice. The cigar clamped between them. I almost screamed, but instead had the presence of mind to just get up and take the seat right behind the driver. I calmed down a bit after that, but I kept an eye on the guy. He ended up chatting with some girl that got on, and they were still talking when I got off. Later, I convinced myself he was just trolling me, having fun with a pair of contacts. ... Now I wonder. That's really creepy. That's just...
But that's creepy also on the level that it's in a public space, so... If it is the same kind of thing, he doesn't need to ask permission.
It really reminds me of one of the early episodes by Astonishing Legends. They did this episode called Devil in the Diner. Mm-hmm. And it's great. And it was with one of their friends who's a comedian and an actress. And she wrote for SNL with one of the hosts of the podcast's wife and their friends. And so she had an encounter where she was eating at a diner at, like, 1 a.m. after SNL had, like, been over for that night. Mm-hmm. And her friend, and this guy came in, and he was wearing, like, all black, and he looked kind of punk. Mm-hmm. And he had, like, a very weird aura about him. And she just, like, could not, like, focus with him near and was getting like, kind of creeped out. Mm-hmm. And then he saw her, that she was looking at him, and he just like grinned, like a very creepy smile, like almost like creature like I know that you know.
Okay.
But it was very interesting, and you should listen to that because it's absolutely terrifying. They did, like, all the Foley with, like, clinking dishes. It was great. It's really great.
That's fine. Yeah, I read a few other ones. But yeah, that bus one is so weird.
I don't like that he was just chewing on a cigar.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the only thing I can think of is that maybe, like... I imagine if someone's chewing on a cigar, they're, like, stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, he's being a real creep.
Yeah, he seems pretty casual. He doesn't seem like he's a stressed guy.
Yeah, he's just like, here's my gross mouth
and
my creepy eyes.
Yeah.
Also, I feel bad for the girl he was chatting up afterwards.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that. I'm scared of what happened. I'm wondering what she was thinking.
Yeah, because maybe she was just like, oh, he's very charming. Like,
yeah.
Maybe he'd finished his cigar by then.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing I feel like I noticed with some of these, and I don't know if it's... I don't know. I feel like in a lot of these, people take some time before they notice, like, the abnormalities about the kids or the people or whatever, particularly the eyes, and sometimes it's, I don't know, that they can't get a look at their eyes, or I don't know how they miss it, or if it's just, like, something the kids kind of put over them, like a...
it could be that, but...
So they can't really see it, and it takes them a minute to check, like, to check in, and, like, I don't know, for it to snap.
It definitely could be that, but also, like, kids don't like making eye contact.
That's true. It's just, I feel like I read this other story, about, like, a Halloween incident. She was watching, I think with her husband, she was watching, like, a ghost story or something with her husband, blah, blah, blah. It was Halloween night, so there had been trick-or-treaters, and their husband wanted to take a shower.
It's always the shower.
Yeah. This is a brief retelling, because this one was a little bit longer, not super long, but... And so, like, the trick-or-treaters were mostly gone, it was getting late, and she let out their dog, like, out of the crate, because they didn't want it to
get out,
escape when they were trick-or-treaters, right? But then she continued watching TV, and then heard a knock at the door, and she couldn't just kind of avoid answering it because there was, like, a glass panel or whatever. Yeah. And so it's not see-through completely, but you can see if someone's sitting there.
Frosted.
Yeah, sitting there watching TV. So she was like, oh, I can't just not answer it. And then there was another knock, and she looks down at her dog, and her dog's not there. And then she looks back and sees the dog is at the back door, like, trying to get out.
Oh, no.
And the thing is, like, she says... that's not normal behavior for her dog. Like, that's not how the dog asks to go out. Usually, it licks her hand or something if it wants to go out. So, like, this is bizarre behavior for the dog trying to get out like this. So she goes and answers the door, and it's these young kids, a girl and a boy, and the girl was about 11 or 12. The boy was about 8 or 9, she thinks.
8 or 9, 11 or 12, like the last one.
So they asked, kind of the same thing as usual, if they could come in and use their phone. They said, "Ma'am, can we please come inside and use your phone to call our mom?" And then she says that she like felt something in the pit of her stomach telling her something was wrong, as happens. And then the kids kept like looking at each other, like giving each other like kind of looks as if to discuss something or discuss how they should deal with like the current line of questioning from her or something, but they never said anything to each other. So after she was like, "Hey, don't you have your own phone?" the girl like kind of looked at the boy and then looked back and said, "Ma'am, my cell phone battery doesn't have any charge left in it. Can we please come inside and call our mother? We're alone out here and my brother is scared."
It's so proper.
Yeah, and she keeps saying, she repeatedly says "ma'am." I think she says it 3 times. Because then later she's like, "Well, why don't you give me your mom's number and I'll call her myself?" And then they pause again and look at each other. Oh my gosh, I hate the looking. Sorry. And the girl goes, "Ma'am, my little brother has to use your bathroom. Can we please come inside while you call our mom?" So it's like, and that exchange was, again, wordless, but she made up this excuse of, "My brother has to use your bathroom now. We have to come inside." And she realizes, like, well, she actually realized, like, right before she said, like, "Why don't you give me your mom's number and I'll call her myself," that she had started to open the door a few extra inches without noticing. That's the thing, that's the point I wanted to make here in telling this story, is that this bizarre way they seem to almost control the people they're trying to, like really mentally control, not just manipulate their emotions, but like in a way that goes beyond that. Because she had started to open the door more than she thought, even though she's terrified. So then at this point, when the girl says that her brother has to use the bathroom, the little girl like starts to move closer as if she's gonna come in, and then thank God this woman like closes the door real quick, well enough so that she can like still kind of stick her face out and talk to them. And then the little girl just goes, "Please, ma'am, we're really scared and alone out here. We have to come inside. Please help us." And then, like, on cue,
it says right crying. Here that before she asked that she had seen her eyes.
Oh, was that the first? Oh, yeah, that's her first good look at her. Sorry, I missed that part. But yeah, and then, yeah, again, it's not until that point that she sees her eyes.
Yeah, probably, like, a minute or two of, like, talking.
Yeah. Finally, she sees that she has solid jet black eyes, quote. And so that's the moment where, like, any instinct she has to protect those kids or whatever, or help these kids, is just completely gone, and she's completely terrified. And that's when the girl says, "Please, ma'am, we're really scared and alone out here. We have to come inside. Please help us." And then, on cue, they both start to cry. And that's... Luckily, when the woman just closed the door and like yells out the door, "I'll call your mom if you give me the number, but I'm not letting you in my house." So they just stood on the porch and stared at her through the glass. She considered running upstairs to her husband, but she was like, "I can't let them out of my sight, because God knows what's going to happen then." So she was going to call a neighbor, and then as she like kind of got to the phone, they started to walk away. She looked out the window, saw them standing by a street lamp, staring back at her. And so then she dialed the number on her phone, called her neighbor, and when they could see her doing that, I guess, they started to walk away. And then she went out, met her neighbor out by that that lamppost, which I don't know how she did that.
Why would you go outside?
I would never leave my house again, probably, if that happened.
After darkness, after the sunset, I would not leave.
Yeah. So, somehow she did that, and they were nowhere to be seen. So, but it's just this, like, weird, like, thing about them, like...
I don't like that the dog, like, reacted immediately. Like, he knew something wrong was going on.
Yeah, I think you see a lot of, in a lot of these stories, you see a lot of pets reacting, and I read another one, I won't get into that one, but that's a whole other can of worms, but, of a dog barking at the door, and then as soon as his owner, like, went to start unlocking it, immediately started whimpering, because the dog wanted to scare away whatever was outside, but once it was like it could get in here, it was like, please no, which is too much.
Trust your dogs, people.
Yeah,
and your cats and any pets.
So
even the goldfish. But like, what are they?
I don't believe in vampires, but vampires. Let's be honest.
I mean, yeah.
They're that, or, you know, I don't know, or they're
aliens.
Yeah. If they're not real, then I think maybe part of their nature, it might be based in vampire lore. But assuming this is a thing, aliens could definitely be a thing, because we know that the first guy, you know, even compared their eyes to looking alien-like.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know why. It's because, I don't know, with aliens you always are like, are they trying to learn about us? What are they trying to do to us?
Yeah, why are they giving us, like, an immediate, like, fear reaction?
Yeah, and that just might be the innate thing telling us that this is not human. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's, you know,
like, this isn't
it's
right.
The definition of uncanny, basically. It's
right.
It's familiar, but it's unfamiliar. You know something's wrong with it. If it's aliens, I don't know if that's... It can't be that they're trying to learn more about us, can it? Like, what would they do? I don't
Are they just trying to learn our, like, reaction time?
They're just punking us? I don't know. But I think also the demon idea is an interesting point.
I mean, it's very, like, supernatural-esque that demons would have, like, black eyes and, like, look like people.
Yeah. Supernatural-esque as in the TV show.
As in the TV show. But what would... If they were demons, and I wrote... demons, ? Are they trying to tempt us? ? What are they trying to tempt us with? They're just terrifying us.
Yeah,
or these people. Not us. I've never had an experience. But, like, humans. I can't imagine what they would be. I mean, besides the vampire thing, that makes a lot of sense. Or maybe they're just a creature of their own.
Or maybe lore of vampires is based on them.
That's also possible.
Maybe that's just people... Maybe this has happened long before this. Long before, in 1996, in Texas. And people were like, maybe these are creatures that drink your blood. Maybe they are. Maybe that they figured it out and we just need to listen up.
Maybe. We don't know about any of the people that let them in, except for that one person, but she made them leave.
Yeah.
So, hang garlic everywhere, y'all. Alright, I think that's all we can do. It's a little bit dissatisfying.
I know. If we could have solved the mystery of black-eyed children, that would be wonderful. But we are just two spooky Betches. So that's black-eyed children for you. And tune in next time.
Alright, bye.